Ben, welcome. Thanks for joining me. What are some of the obstacles that you see agencies facing in trying to implement a DevSecOps environment, and how have you seen organizations that have been able to overcome those obstacles do so?
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for bringing me in. Well, first and foremost, we're seeing with IT modernization, with digital transformation, the proliferation of tools and teams. So that's on the surface a good thing because that means more work that's relevant, more DevSecOps happening. But with that kind of scale, the complexity can increase, and so oftentimes software delivery becomes fragmented, which in turn leads to things like gaps in governance, gaps in compliance, maybe blind spots or bottlenecks so that capabilities aren't getting pushed out to the users who end up needing it. And then, of course, also supply chain risk, which is something that's getting a lot of attention over the past couple of years. So that's a common challenge, number one. Another that we're seeing a lot is generally the lack of insight into the production readiness of software. Having different tools, different teams, that's great, right? You want teams to be able to use the best in class technology that's out there. But you also need visibility into all that diverse tooling, all that diverse application development that's happening across an enterprise, and a way to harmonize all that diversity so that you're tying together all those different things, all those different teams, all those different processes into something that makes sense and makes it possible to make sense of software delivery across an enterprise.
So tying all those
Uh,
things together, it sounds like, Ben, is maybe the biggest obstacle to overcome because of everybody I talk to about DevSecOps says one of the important things is fostering collaboration. And how do you get people to work together? And so it sounds like what you're saying is if you have all these things in all these disparate places and they're not connected to each other, you never really get to the collaboration phase that's really important. Is that a fair read on my part?
100% right. It makes it at least a lot harder, with those disconnections. It makes it a lot harder to be to be humming, to be working in harmony. And with the advent of all these software factories, cropping up all across government, you can't have a factory that's got, one portion of the factory that's running really slowly or working orthogonal to another part. Things have to be harmonious. And what we have seen some customers do with great success is essentially, and this is a term that I really love, worthy software. It's specific but also generic, which comes in handy depending on your audience. But what we have been able to do with a lot of customers is help them establish trustworthy pipelines so that the process can be trusted. And then the output of those software factories is something that can be trusted to live in the wild. And that is a benefit to the developers, say, so that they're wasting a lot less effort and not reworking things. It's beneficial to management because ultimately they're on the line. It's also beneficial to auditors or an authorizing official who ultimately has to give that stamp of approval for, let's say, a system to live on a government network. So I really love the concept of worthiness in software delivery.
What builds that worthiness, or how does one know something is worthy when one sees it?
Number one most important thing, this is not my idea, but I love it. It is define deployable. What does deployable mean to an organization? When you've defined that, then well, what is it going to take to make sure that this thing can live in the wild? And what will give you the confidence to trust it? And so another thing that happens when you define deployable, in the process of doing that, you bring in security, you bring in operations, you bring in development groups. So you've got collaboration in that aspect of it. It also helps you, it reveals what can be automated. So define deployable and then automate the hell out of everything that can be automated to make sure that the thing is deployable. And that really, wherever it's wasteful or wherever it's unnecessary, manual effort that is, it should be automated.
And if I understand the principles of DevSecOps correctly, deployable doesn't mean finished. Deployable means usable and something upon which we can iterate. Am I on that correctly?
You nailed it. It also, carrying on with that, it also doesn't mean perfect. The R in RMF is risk, right? Government operates on a risk-based framework, right? As far as cybersecurity and trustworthiness of information systems. It doesn't mean perfect. It doesn't mean completely invulnerable. It means acceptable. You have to look at acceptable level of risk. And so deployable is going to incorporate a level of risk, a level of vulnerability. But if you know that it's within the thresholds and tolerances of that organization, you're okay. You're feeling good and confident about it.
Is there a universal definition for deployable, or does it depend on what the outcomes are that people want from the particular thing that's under development?
Yeah, there is not, but that's good. That's a good thing because, as you know, government is enormous, right? Private enterprise is enormous. Every organization is slightly different, so it would be impossible and foolhardy to think that uniformity is the way to go. I think that's one principle behind a risk-based framework. It's that you have to take into account the different peculiarities, the different characteristics of an organization, and the type of software-based capabilities that are being produced, and make risk-based decisions and define what good enough and what deployable is based on all that constellation of features.
Ben, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much for your time today.
Very good to be here. Thank you.